So I've known Matt now, shit, it's got to be 15 maybe, 16 years?
Yeah, probably from,
You speaking of Mike?
I want to say we met in like 2008, 2009.
Yeah, Don Hills, I think it was.
What was it?
Was it Don Hills?
Yeah.
You started managing Jimmy for a little while, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, real shit.
So the thing about Matt, like he's one of those like utility players. He pretty much has been involved in most facets of the music industry, from management to publishing to A&R work to consultant to
Every
therapist, banker, you know how it goes with management. But he currently manages, some really mainstay producers in the game, like Cardiac. Cardiac did Damage for her. He did Started Up for Kanye and Lloyd Banks back in the day. That was like his big first record. So he's been on a tear ever since. I mean, him and Hitmaker have been killing the game in terms of, getting music out there. Also manages Denon Porter. Yep. Denon used to be, actually part of D12, but he's Eminem's hype man. But he's also a dope producer for 50, Snoop, Dre, Kendrick, etc. And now you're also an A&R.
Yep.
Warner?
Yeah, Vice President of A&R, Warner Records.
Warner Records. So, yeah, goes without saying. Wearing a lot of hats, doing a lot of great things. Give me an introduction to just like basically how you kind of got started in the music in general.
Man, I guess my love for music came from like my family. My uncle was a producer. He produced for Coolio, Tupac, Monifa, a bunch of people in like the 90s. That was kind of like my first entrance to it, where I would see it around but not really know what was going on because I was like a child. But then I had cousins who would, do different things. I had a cousin who like started an independent label in the Bay. I had another cousin who was like working at Warner Chappell. So I would always kind of see, people within my family working in it. I always got my musical taste from my older cousins. I would like steal their CDs and tapes and shit, and then my mom would find them, and we'd all get in trouble. So that's kind of like where it started. And then getting out of high school, going to college in New York, I kind of just started to figure it out, like, what I wanted to do and how I was going to get there. And at some point during my freshman year of college, I decided to not go to class anymore and, just try and figure out this record label stuff. So I ended up getting kicked out of school, actually. And then I still convinced my parents to let me stay in New York. And then I went to recording school at SAE. And then from there, I moved back to LA. I started working at a recording studio actually not far from here. It was called the Boom Boom Room. It was owned by Will Smith at the time. So from there, that's kind of where I started cutting my teeth with meeting producers and meeting artists and just really building relationships. Because there's a lot of people still to this day that I met at that studio getting them food, just being a runner. So that's kind of where that was my first job in the music industry. And then I did that for 3 years, and then I left there, and Ethiopia hired me to be a publisher at Universal at 24, and that was around the time we had started to meet. Or no, actually we met before that. We met at the end of me working at the Boom Boom Room, because Ethiopia hired me in 2009. And then from there, I was kind of off and running. Obviously, most people who know my story know I went to college with J. Cole. So once I left Universal, I started doing the A&R work for Dreamville, discovered and signed Kaz and started to manage Kaz, helped A&R all of the artists and put their albums together and breaking them. And then did that for 6 years. And then after that, I went to Pulse for a few years. And now I'm at Warner. That's
full circle.
Yeah.
I forgot the Dreamville part, y'all. He's very influential in the whole J. Cole, the whole Revenge, that whole project, or that big song camp that they did a couple years back. So, you've had your hands in so many different aspects of the game, and then now you have a lot on your plate in terms of the different producers and this A&R position. How do you manage that process? I know it's probably a challenge, your days are long, but how do you prioritize? And it's important for y'all to really understand this, because with somebody who's kind of in the game, but also trying to develop people and put them on and show them some way of direction, it's important for you to kind of understand what he's doing now at this point, so it's something to strive towards. So how do you manage it, bro?
It's difficult.
And be real, because I know you. I know how you do.
It's difficult, to be honest. Sometimes I can't manage. Sometimes there's just too much going on. And then sometimes, you know, I can prioritize and figure out, okay, obviously being a vice president at a label, obviously being like a vice president at a label, that, you know, that kind of makes the priority easy for me, because like obviously I got to do stuff for my artists, I got to do stuff to keep a check coming. But then after that, it's just like, you know, I'm a manager 24 hours, so my clients know that they can reach me whenever, and I still got to figure that side out. There's really no days off, no hours off. You know what I mean? Certain stuff, like, there's certain people who can't call me after a certain time, and then there's certain people who can call me anytime. But, you know, you just kind of figure that out, and every day is different. Every day is a learning experience. Every day you're going to win some battles, you're going to lose some battles. And it's just about waking up and doing the shit every day. Like, whatever you didn't get done yesterday, try to get that shit done today. You're never going to get everything done in a day, so don't get mad at yourself. Don't beat yourself up over that shit. Yeah. And it's, you know, just prioritize stuff, make sure you make your deadlines. But yeah, it's pretty much unmanageable at this point. Like, I wish I could. Yeah, it was easier when I had less to do.
Of course.
And now I have too many people that rely on me in order to get shit done. So managing it is the hardest part, to be honest.
Yeah, one of the things people don't realize is, you know, managers are probably the least paid person in the game and have the most responsibility. Like, you know, being able to keep somebody motivated to work, you know, organized, help them with schedules and getting their music out, obviously trying to, you know, find employment for them per se. And it's not even really the manager's job to do so. Right. Like, we do it because we obviously want to see a better thing happen for our client, but we also want to get paid at some point. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be on your grind when it comes to that. And what you just said is important too. Like, you know, I think a lot of times we forget about, you know, we make this grandiose list every day of things we want to accomplish, and we do kind of get mad at ourselves if we don't finish it all. So what I always say is, like, try to balance your scale on a scale of urgency versus importance, and understanding like how urgency is like, it's got to happen right now because maybe it affects my bottom line, or affects something going on right now, or it sets me up for something that I need to worry about maybe a month from now. And then the rest of it is just important, and you do it when you can do it, or if you finish these 3 or 4 urgent things, you start knocking down on that list. Because a lot of times the process is what holds us back, right? We just do things in the wrong order, or we pick the wrong things to do that specific day. I want to talk a little bit about relationships with you, because, you know, in this game, when it comes to being a manager, publisher, all the different things that you do, you know, relationships play this important role. How do you develop and nurture the relationships that you've been building over the years?
I think the easiest way is just trying to be a decent human. You know what I mean? And I mean, I'll be honest, if you were to ask around about me, there's some people who haven't had the best, you know, interactions with me, and there's some people that have had amazing interactions with me. And it all comes from me, it's just like, it's a response thing. I'm gonna treat you how I feel like I'm being treated in the moment. And sometimes I might be wrong, and I've had to apologize to people, and that's the part of just being a decent human being, like understanding when you're wrong and admitting to it, and then just kind of moving on from there. And like, I think that that's always been my like strong point. As much as I like will tell people like, yo, I'm really not a relationship person, you either love me or hate me. But I think that's been a strong point of mine, to where it's just like, when I do have a good relationship with somebody, I'm able to really see the worth in it, and make sure that I put that ahead of anything. You know, every relationship, some relationships are worth more than money. So like, there's some times where I'll take a personal loss, but I know the relationship is worth it. Or, you know, sometimes I'll have to like really like take a step back and really evaluate what a relationship is worth, compared to like, you know, what my personal well-being is, or what my personal bottom line is, or even if it's something that has to do with my clients. Because sometimes I want to cuss people out, but I can't, because it's like, damn, my client actually fucks with this person, so let me just kind of like take a step back, because I don't want to ruin the relationship with them. So, you know, relationships is 90% of this game. I would be lying to people if I told them like a relationship is what got me my job. You know, I knew the people that I report to now previously, and they'd seen what I had done for years. So when it came down to like my name coming up for my job, when Steve-O, Aaron, and Karen had both, like all 3 of them had heard of me, and then they had a relationship with me, it made it easy for them to be like, okay, this is somebody that we can trust to come in and do what we need.
Right.
So it's very important, and you know, it's just a matter of like always trying to keep your human decency when it comes to like dealing with people.
Yeah.
But also don't let people take advantage of you, and obviously let people know that they can't take advantage of you. And sometimes with that, you might ruffle some feathers, and you might get some people that really don't really rock with it. But at the end of the day, like, you got to do what's best for you, or if you're a manager, what's best for your clients. But still at the same time, I just try to remember that, like, what would my grandmother think type shit, you know what I mean? Like, if she were just to watch me or see my interaction. So shit like that, just try to keep a level of decency to yourself. And I think that the networking part of it will come easy. Even if you like, I think I'm socially awkward. Some people think I'm like, oh man, you so easy to talk to. That shit don't come easy. Like,
depends on what day it is.
Yeah, it depends on what day it is. It depends on what
records are coming out that day. Yeah.
So it's just like, you know, like, I think this just comes from years of practice of just having to talk to people, because it wasn't always the easiest for me. And I get to, like, being in the music industry and the entertainment industry, period, it's a social thing. You know, people want you to go out and they want to socialize with you, and they want to know that you're a cool person sometimes before they even get to doing business with you, because it makes it easier. If I'm gonna do some business with somebody and I'm gonna potentially lose some money, I'm gonna lose some money with somebody I like, rather than somebody who it's just like whatever, and I thought, oh, we could get a win, but I don't really fuck with you. Like, I'd rather just fuck with you, and if we get an L, we catch an L, and if, like, whatever. If we win, it's even better. Right. So you got to think about that a lot of times, and that's really like the key to this shit. There's people that get jobs that may not deserve it, you may think, but then it's like, well, damn, I don't know what their relationship with this person is, and it may just be easier for this person to work with that person than somebody they don't know.
Yeah. And that's a good point too, because, you know, relationships are really like currency. You know, like, we've taken all these time over the years, like, and I always, like, people reach out to me sometimes. Like, I'll give you a quick example. When I was managing Focus, you know, I'd met Dre for the first time, right? And Dr. Dre, so Focus knew I wanted to take a picture with him, but I didn't want to ask Dr. Dre that, you know what I'm saying? It was kind of like, I don't be thirsty. But so Focus was like, hey, Dre, let's take a quick flick. You know what I'm saying? So we sat out there, took a picture. So a couple days later, I got back to New York and I posted the pic and I said, like, you know, just for motivational purposes only, like, when you get in these kind of rooms, you realize how hard it is you've worked to get here. So it's kind of like one of those things, like, just keep going or whatever. Maybe 30 seconds later, the first DM I got was, yo, all capital letters, the whole sentence. This is one sentence. Yo, I need you to take me to see Dr. Dre. I didn't know who the fuck this person was. You feel what I'm saying? Like, why in the hell would I ever take you to Dr. Dre? And the reason why I even say that is because, you know, we've been shooting in the gym for years, and we do it every day, and a lot of people aren't shooting in the gym with us. So why do you think, because I have this relationship, and maybe even if I know you, like, why would I share that with you? You know, if it's because you gotta understand something too. We put our name on something specific. So if you mess up, like, just even a millisecond or whatever, it affects us in a certain way, and then we can't trust you anymore. And sometimes that hurts the relationship side of it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So, you know, and also just on the aspect of, like, talking to people and being a good human, I always feel like nobody really wants to deal with a dickhead. You know what I'm saying? Or an asshole. Like, you might have an asshole lawyer. Oh, he gets me money, he does all the shit. But at the end of the day, nobody really wants to deal with that person. You feel what I'm saying? So, you know, if you're genuine with who you are and you operate on this high level where you're, like, looking for respect, but you're also trying to respect the people you're speaking to and try to build that relationship, you have to kind of know how to get out from in front of yourself and talk to people. You know, like Matt said, like, you know, people might think he's socially awkward. I'm a huge networker, but there's times where I pick and choose my moments, like, where I'm like, okay, you know what? It's not the right time right now to approach this person. Maybe it's like their event and they're busy. They don't want to really, you know what I'm saying? And even with the rooms that we can walk in, sometimes you need a different key to get to a different room and in that room. So there's times and there's moments and there's conversations, and it takes time. Like, every time you speak to somebody, you should always just mentally know it's not about that moment. It's about the moment next, the next after that, the one that continues for the 15 years that we've, you know. And the great thing about Matt is, as he's elevated through all his hard work, like, he's always somebody who's willing to come out and speak, because he knows how important it is, number one, but he also works with these guys that are trying to
I just know
get to that level.
Did for me, you know what I mean? Just like, being a 17, 18-year-old kid in New York, just like, oh man, how the fuck am I gonna get in the music industry? And seeing all these different avenues and ways where I could, potentially get in a room and get a relationship with somebody. So like, I remember I was going to like your shit, dynamic producer shit, fucking Power 105, Power Summits, like anything I could get in a room where I knew like, okay, there's gonna be somebody that I could potentially make a relationship with, or somebody that can see something in me potentially. Like I was just trying to get there. And so you've always been a supportive of the community, so it's like, I know what these type of events meant for me, so I always try to make an effort to come out, especially because you and I have a relationship. Like, I get asked to do shit like this all the time, but I'm not doing it for everybody. Like it's not even that I don't want to, I just can't, but I always try to make a time for Hatch and anything he got going on, because I know that it always was valuable to me, so I know it's gonna be valuable to some of you guys while I'm here.
Y'all get up for Money Makin Matt. Might get real small. Plugs out. There we go. So obviously a lot of creatives in the room. We have about 30 writers this weekend and 25 producers. So it's our biggest actual attendee camp. And I know that, a lot of these guys are always kind of looking for managers, or trying to figure out when a manager is important in their career. From your perspective, and even on the come up and working with some of the producers that you have now, when do you think, or when do you suggest somebody actively either look for a manager or be open to being managed?
I think you should, if you don't have anybody in like your immediate circle that you automatically trust, and you see that they have the belief in you and the hustle to help you get shit done, I feel like if you don't have that person and you're looking for a manager, you have to have something to manage first.
Right.
So if somebody like me or any other counterpart that I may have that manages producers or songwriters or artists, if you don't have anything to manage, then it's an uphill battle for everybody, because they're trying to create opportunities that you haven't even been able to create for yourself yet. So it's even harder for somebody else to do it. Now, granted, if you find somebody that does believe in you and feels like, okay, bet I can move this person around, and they have done some shit and they have connections in the industry, then it makes sense to potentially work with that person. But then it may not, because I think all managers get to a point where we get kind of like eyes wide open, and it's like, oh shit, we can do this with so many people.
100%.
And you can't. Like, it's impossible. There's some of my clients that get 80% of my time. It's literally the 80-20 rule. The top 20 earners of my clients get 80% of my time, and the bottom 80% of my earners get 20%. So if I'm managing 8 people or 10 people, 8 of you are only getting 20% of my time, and 2 of you are gonna get 80% of my time. So to me, it's always just find somebody that is believing in you, has the time, energy, and hustle to help you get the shit done. And then also having something to manage. Because if you're a producer and you're not getting placements, if you're a writer and you're not getting sessions, then to me, that's what you need to focus on before you finding a manager. Because I need to know that you can still get in rooms by yourself. Because then, if you can't, then everything is on me now. And that makes it even harder for me, because it's just like, now I'm out here trying to convince people to get you in rooms, and it's like, is really more time and effort for me to even just help you with little shit than, we don't have any like real things to talk about. We don't have any money to talk about. So there are instances where I'll find somebody that is young and talented, and they don't have anything really going on for them, but I may have an opportunity where I can easily slot them in to say, hey, I can do this for you, I can do this. But even still, like, they got to understand, that 80-20 rule of like, I'm still going to be focusing on like, my main guys for right now. And I think with that, if you have that understanding, it's harder for people to feel like, oh, this person let me down. Because it's like, especially if it's somebody that is an established manager and is doing stuff and has other clients, then it's like, okay, bet, just kind of like, you got to play on the bench a little bit, Not everybody's a starter right away. So it's like, you got to hit the practice field. You got to hit as many sessions as you can. You got to show somebody that you got your own hustle, because that's the easiest thing that wakes me up, is if I have a client call me and be like, hey, I got this placement, or I was in this session last night with such and such, and we did this, and it's like, oh shit, okay, bet. Now you're giving me some vision of what I could potentially do for you and how I can help you.
Right.
But if it's just you sitting at home every day like, damn, I need to get in the session, I can't help you get in hustle. Like that's just something that is just like innately born in you. You got to wake up wanting to get outside every day, wanting to connect with new people. So I think that's like a big part of it. And then once you figure that part out, it's like, okay, I have something to manage. Then it's easy to vet. And to me, I tell people this before they even get a manager, get an attorney.
Yeah.
Because even if you get the placement, sometimes a manager may not know how to negotiate that shit for you, or may not know how to do it best. And then it's like they're gonna take whatever it is, like, oh, somebody offers you $1,500 for the beat, but your attorney probably could have got you like $3,500 or $4,000, whatever it is. So I always say get an attorney first. That's gonna be because your manager's still gonna have to help you find an attorney. And an attorney, because you're only gonna need an attorney once you have something going. Once you have a placement or a song or an opportunity to where it's like, okay, I need this paperwork looked after. And then they can even help you find a manager. All attorneys know me. Every little real attorney knows me. To where it's like, oh, if I think this person will work fine for Matt, they'll give me a call. So to me, I always say a lawyer is more important than a manager anytime. Right. I know some of the biggest producers in the world that don't have managers. To where it's just like, they just let people that they personally trust, like, yo, if you can do this and you can give me this opportunity, I'll give you a piece of the commission. But other than that, I know I'm getting myself these placements, so I just need an attorney.
Right.
And then, even then, once you get to that point, sometimes it's just like, okay, there's artists that don't want to deal with, or producers that don't want to deal with the negotiation fact of it. So then it's like, okay, now I'm just like finding somebody, because I just want to stay fully creative. I don't want to deal with like talking to people about, the business side of it and people being assholes about money and points and splits. Right. So it's just like, okay, I'll find a manager to do that for me. Right. But if you have none of that going on, that's the first thing, is like get motion. Get some motion going, get people fucking with you to where it's like, okay, bet. I got people calling my phone. I got people asking me to come to sessions. I need somebody to just help me organize this shit. I got money coming in. I need people to help me collect this shit. That's when it's like, okay, I need a manager. Right. But until you got any of that going, just figure it out. Like, you can do this shit on your own. It's not like Cardiac needed me. Right. Like, he only needed assistance. Right. Like, that's really what our job is to make this shit a lot smoother for you. Right. It's not really to do the work.
And the crazy part of it is like, it's really a partnership mostly. Like you hope it's a partnership, but in reality, it's the same 80-20 rule that you have for communication is the same 80-20 rule we have as what we get for our clients, right? So we're putting in all this work and we're getting 20% of the cut per se. You feel what I'm saying? So if we are bringing 80% to the table and we're only collecting 20% of what we're getting in, sometimes it's also a decision if it's worth it or not. But to Matt's point too, like, finding that one person, like obviously there's so many talented creatives in these camps, and it's like, I would love to be able to manage or do something for people, but that's why we do the same company. That's why we do things in a different perspective, because I can still create opportunities for everybody, but I physically don't have the time to manage everybody. Because after all these camps, I'm always getting emails like, Hatch, by the way, and then it's difficult because, we try to pick and choose what we feel we want to get involved in, and sometimes we do feel like we can do, I could take that person. I know I could do something with that person. I'll just put him in with this guy. Right. He'd collaborate for a couple months. Next thing you know, we'll get a placement. Like when you have those kind of relationships, it's a lot easier, but it's also a bigger risk for us because now we got to put our name on you. And if you don't really hold your end of the bargain up, it makes us look kind of bad. So there's a lot of different levels and different ways you can kind of go around it. But I think, having people that have something going on allows us to kind of come in, help with the vision, but you also got to be willing to listen and learn too. You can't just come in and be like, hey, I need you to just handle this. This is the financial side of it. I'm going to handle all the music. No, you want a manager who's able to give you some actual real feedback on production, melodies. Like we've been doing this for so long. Like we fit into that space sometimes without even wanting to or having to. We're there at the moment. So, Yeah, so relationships are super important. How do you, in terms of your clients specifically, when you do have these conversations, do you do like, weekly call with somebody? Do you have like just different rollouts, campaigns? I mean, how involved are you with everybody when it comes to like records dropping and stuff like that?
So, I mean, I have a group chat to where like literally me and all my clients and my assistant who does all like my admin work, we're all just there. So any time where it's like I have an opportunity or information that I just have for everybody, just kind of throw it in there so I don't have to make, so many individual, but then for the most part, like everybody knows, like, especially my clients, they know they can reach me anytime. So I'm not that organized to where it's like I'm having weekly calls with anybody. For me, like I said, it's just like, the people that talk to me the most are the ones that have the most shit going on. And it's not to say that the ones that don't or some of my clients overseas can't reach me. They can reach me at any time. But, it's just like, from earlier, it's just like the 80-20 rule to where if we got something going on, trust and believe we're talking all the time. Yeah. So there's times where it's like, me and one of my guys may be talking for 6-7 weeks straight while we're trying to get, a record managed and put out. And then after that, it may, we ain't got shit to talk about really until we get the next one or until they send me some more beats to send. But even then, I try, like, for me at least, I've tried to like remove myself from the creative aspect of my clients just because I feel like so many of them have artist relationships and direct relationships, and they've been doing this long enough to where I can just connect them with an artist and I don't have to feel like I need to middleman the conversation anymore. So I try to like literally, it's just like, call me when we got something to really talk about. Like, obviously I'm your manager, so if you got something to vent about or a question for me, you can call me at any time. But I think a lot of my guys know what else I have going on outside of management, so they respect that. Because they know even at the end of the day, like, me being a VP at a label just brings them more opportunities. Right. So, they kind of respect the fact that I may not be reachable between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. because I'm going to be, there's days where I sit in meetings back to back to back. So yeah, I think it's, it's just a matter of like being able to grow with your clients and them understanding what you got going on. So me having like a dual role of being a label A&R and a producer manager, they get it. So, there's some spaces I can't really get involved in, especially when it's like, okay, a client of mine has a record on somebody I'm A&Ring, to where like, I got to really tell the attorney where it's like, okay, yeah, you guys got to work this out. Like, I can't really talk to the manager at this because I'm too involved. I don't want to make it look one way, like I'm being one-sided towards anybody. I don't want to make it look like, oh, I'm trying to look out for the budget and shortchanging my producer, and I don't want to look like I'm taking advantage of the budget and overpaying my producer. So like
sticky situation.
Yeah, so it's just those type of opportunities come up, and they know it's like, okay, bet we kind of got to work it this way rather than the normal way.
What about your actual client list? If you don't mind, like just running down the list, who you manage, what they do. I know that's a long ass list. He's like, I don't even know who I manage anymore, bro. So aside from Cardiac and Denon, we know
one is Cardiac, Denon, Kelvin Wooten, who works hand in hand with Cardiac these days.
Yeah, he's written a lot of big records.
Tay Beast, Super Miles, Rascal from Germany, this young kid Amara Beats from Rotterdam. Who the fuck else do I manage? Mario Luciano, Johnny Dutra, Bone Collector. I'm sure there's somebody I'm fucking forgetting. Like, it's
check your group chat. No,
it's bad. Like, literally, that's the worst question somebody can ask me. Like, even when like other A&Rs come to sit with me and they're like, hey, play me some shit. What producers do you have? I'm like, bro, I don't know who I fucking manage. I'm just about to play you whatever beats I got downloaded.
So you just fold it, that's about it.
Yeah, some days it gets bad. But yeah, so those are the most. Eric Hudson too. Like,
oh shit, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot. That's why I said, like, we get wide-eyed sometimes, and it's like, oh fuck, I want to help everybody. But it's impossible. I've literally gotten to the point now where it's like, I think I have to like be like closed for business for a little bit. Yeah. Where it's just like do some house cleaning shit before I can like think about taking on new shit, because obviously in the past like 5 years, my client list went from like 4 people to like 20. So yeah, it's pretty bad.
That's how you want to just help the world. You're like, I can
Especially
do this.
producers.
You know what I'm saying? I can do all this.
It's like, okay, whoever's the most taken advantage of people is like, let me just help them. So yeah, it gets to be a lot, but I love doing it. I love helping people. I love seeing people graduate and like make their dreams and accomplish their goals. So that's the best part of it for me. Like, money is great, but I feel like I'd figure out a way to make money, like whether it's just a job. So it really is, it's the personal aspect of it of like, you know, I was just in Miami last week at the BMI Awards, and to see Cardiac and Kelvin win for the Her and Chris Brown record was amazing. And then even to just see friends of mine that I've known for forever and to see them get, you know, their awards and accomplishments, I love seeing that shit. So that's really what I kind of do this shit for.
So y'all give it up, man. Show some love. Let's talk real quick about, I guess, the transition back into A&Ring, because, you know, for a while you took a little hiatus off the publishing side of things. We had some conversations when I was managing Focus. You gave me a lot of great direction. Why did you decide to go back to do the A&R side of it, and what do you get out of that kind of keeps you dialed in industry-wise?
Because with the Dreamville shit, it was a little different. Like, this is essentially a childhood friend of mine now. Like, we met when we were 17. We're 37 now. So that was more like, you know, me working with family, me working with friends, and us just, it was more like a us against the world thing. You know, it wasn't like, it didn't feel like, I knew since I was 17 what I wanted to do. And, you know, my biggest influence in becoming an A&R, his name is Kayembo Joshua, hip hop.
Oh, yeah, hip hop.
So that was like the first itch I had to scratch, was like, okay, I always told myself I wanted to A&R for like a superstar artist. God blessed me and introduced me to J. Cole, so I had the opportunity to do that. I was, you know, an integral part of being able to build a label with Dreamville. And so the other part of that itch was like, okay, I want to do this on a major label side. And I think that, you know, after leaving Dreamville, I needed just a break from like the everyday grind of A&Ring. So to go to Pulse for a little bit was good. And it was good for me to be able to like focus on my management company at the time and really like build that out and develop that into what it is now. But it was still there. It was still like, you know, I want to, like, I didn't have control over signing shit at Dreamville. Right. You know what I mean? Like, Cole had to love it. You know, luckily he loved Kaz when I brought it to him. He loved Ari when we discovered her through Omen. They loved Earth Gang and Jid, so it was just like, okay, bet. Like, we collectively love this shit, but as long as he loves it, then we know we got something. Right. But with this, it's just like, I can find something and discover it and champion it and bring it from, you know, 0 to 60 and then 60 to 100. And that's really what I want to do. And that's really like my goal in this shit. So when I got a phone call to, like, you know, potentially work at Warner, like, the first thing somebody asked me was like, would you go back in the building? And, like, you know, I think anybody who's done this shit for a long time and who understands like what it's like working in a building is like, no, man, that shit is the fucking worst. Like, if I'm already getting money outside of the building, why do I need to go in it? But for me, it was just a different motive of having a personal itch I wanted to scratch, and then, you know, being able to, you know, make my mark on another side of it. Like, obviously I did the shit with Dreamville, but like on an ego level, that I'm not gonna get credit for that. You know what I mean? But if I can go out and discover the next superstar rapper from LA, then it's like, that's something that I'm gonna get credit for. The same way Kiefer gets credit for
Roddy. It's gonna build your legacy as well, right. Yeah.
So it's, you know, on an ego level it's for that, but then on the other side of it, it's just to continue to help this shit grow. Like, I'm a hip hop baby. Like, so I don't want to see this shit crumble or turn into nothing. So I think that's just a big part of it. And, you know, I want to continue to make good music and help people that make my brand of good music. I want to help them bring that on. Like, obviously there's rap has turned into like multi-genre shit. So it's just like there's different genres of everything. So, you know, I just want to help guys that make shit that I like and get them to shine.
Dope. So last question for me, then we'll do a couple questions from the audience. What do you think, from your experience at least, what do you think the biggest mistake, I guess, a creator makes when trying to, you know, either get music placed or get, you know, build these relationships? What do you think are some of like the red flags you've been seeing with stuff like that?
The first one is being dishonest. Like, the biggest mistake somebody can make with me, especially as an A&R, is like, if you're a producer or a songwriter, just be honest about what you did, especially in this day and age where like it's super collaborative. So like, I don't want to be a part of anything to where it's just like, this person's not telling me the truth, or it's just like, okay, they're trying to take credit for something they didn't do, or just like, you know, take advantage of people. Like, I don't really rock with that. So that would be my first kind of red flag, is just like, you know, playing your role and being honest is a big thing. And that'll get you further than trying to take advantage of somebody. Because at the end of the day, talent is always going to work. So if you're taking advantage of a talented person for your own good and not taking care of them, one day they shit is going to work, and they're going to be able to turn around and tell the world what you did to them. So like, be very weary of that. Like, as much as I've done and as many relationships I've had that have gone good or bad, I know there's not one person in this world that can say I took advantage of them, I took money from them, I took publishing from them. They can say a whole lot of other shit about me, but that shit they can't say. And I kind of like hang my hat on that, as you'll never have bad business attached to my name. So that kind of is big for me. Other than that, it's kind of a crapshoot, to be honest. Because like, I would like to be like, tell people to be personable and all of that shit, but like, there's some people that aren't personable, that are total introverts, and they make this shit work, you know? And then there's some people that are super extroverts, and when you see them come around, it's like, fuck. You know what I mean? But it's not their fault. They're just. And
they're always on, right?
Yeah, they're just always on. But it's nothing like you know, you can't hold that against them. So you know, I think that the biggest part is like, and this may be even like a little off subject, is just finding your circle, finding your tribe of people that you know accept you for who you are, fuck with you, and you know, they'll be willing to take you with them, or you'll be willing to take them with you, whoever gets the opportunity first. Because I'm also a big fan of that. Like, I don't fuck with people that really don't fuck with the people they started with, to be honest. Like, anybody you see me around and like really calling my friend or my brother is somebody that I really have been doing this shit with for a long, long time. Yeah. And people that I literally like was in the trenches with, that we've seen each other broke. And I fuck with that. I fuck with people that will not forget where they came from and not forget who they were with when nobody had nothing. Because it's not that you're gonna be with that person every day still. There's people that 10 years ago I was with every single day, whether it was at the studio or hanging out. And you know, we've obviously grown apart, but these people know they call me, I'm picking up. Right. If you know, they tell me like, oh, I'm having a baby shower, I'm gonna be there. Like, I'm gonna be there for the important shit. I may not be there to just come to your random sessions anymore, but so that's a big thing for me. But other like red flags in terms of like business shit, to me the biggest one is just being honest, and like, cause not everybody's gonna know everything about the business. Some people are gonna be greener than others, so I can't hold that against you. And that's why it's always important, like I said, to have an attorney or a good manager who can like cover those areas for you. But for me, it's really just like dealing with, you know, the dishonesty. That's the worst part about it is like, even, I'm not gonna say any names, but like there was an artist that I was A&Ring, we had an album come out, and like the whole time I'm talking to this kid who's telling me like he produced the record, and then come to find out like he did nothing. And this, I'm not saying like, okay, if you put the shit together and you somehow made it happen, fine. If people want to give you a piece of their publishing, that's understandable. That is between you and that person. But I feel like putting your name on a credit to say I produced this and I wrote this, that's a lie. And that's something I can't stand on, because now you're going to attract other people to come to you to say like, oh, you produced this record. And then, so in that same right, you're going to do the same thing again. You're going to take advantage of somebody else who's actually doing the work, rather than just being like, hey, I could plug you with this situation. You get a record off. Let me get 2%. Let me get 3%. Whatever if it's 15%, whatever the person is comfortable with.
Once you have the conversation prior, you're good. Yeah.
So that becomes my issue, is this when it's like, okay, why are you getting writing credits when you didn't write? Why are you getting producer credits when you just essentially told somebody to send you?
We have a whole panel just on that fucking conversation right there, bro.
So and you know, that even goes for like, there's managers who I choose not to do business with because I don't like their business practices, and I'd rather not be attached to no shit like that. And even when it comes up at times when like a client of mine will work with one of their clients, I just tell the attorney like, bro, this one's on you, or and this was on you. Like I don't want to talk to this person, you know?
Yeah. Also, too, I think one of the biggest red flags nowadays is like, well, not even red flags, but it's just, I think a lot of people block their own blessings.
For sure.
Right, like, you know, there's one thing about, like, I always say, like, getting out of your own way, right? So a lot of y'all came out here, you know, you spent some money to invest in yourselves. You might have traveled, you might have had to get a hotel, you might have had to take 10 Ubers, you might have came from Toronto at 6 a.m., whatever the case may be, you did something to get here, right? So we understand, like, you're invested in your own craft. There's people that sometimes they get the acceptance letter and they see the fee and they're like, oh, I can't afford that right now. And they live in the same city, right? Check. And I'm like, bro, you spend that shit on weed. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you're going to block your blessing and not come see a Steve LaBelle, a Money Makin Matt, a Authentic, Ashley Calhoun. Like, lay low for a second, you know what I'm saying? Stack your money, but you can't block your blessings. And another thing I would say is just also inconsistency. You know, like one of the things that I really, when people hit me, I'm sure you get a lot of this too, it's like, oh yeah, you know, I took a little break from music, you know what I'm saying? I had to kind of focus on myself. Like, that's all cool and everything, but you got to understand something. Like, when you step away from the poker table for too long, people are going to steal your chips. And you've worked too hard to get to this one specific place.
Now, I actually had a conversation with somebody recently, and this was somebody online that I really had never met in person, never had a conversation with, but I was a fan of their work. That was the reason why, like, I followed them, because I was familiar. And they posted something on their story about, like, quitting music. And usually, I don't know what it is. Like, usually I just let that shit go. Like, I got bigger shit to worry about. I'm just keep going. But something made me like respond to this person and told them, I was like, bro, that is the wrong thing to do actually. Because that's one thing for me, is like, there was times where I was fucked up, broke, down and out.
Been there. We all been there, I think.
Depressed, broken hearted, all kinds of shit. And the one thing that was always there was music for me to do. To whether it was like, man, I'm gonna find a beat, I'm gonna go find a new fucking client, I'm gonna find something to keep me busy. And I told him, I was like, listen, bro, you doing that is you almost like not only are you quitting on yourself, but like you have a God-given talent. Right. So like for you to give up something that God has given you is even worse to me. To where it's like quitting on yourself is one thing, but to where it's like you have something that people wish they have and people practice hours and pay all types of money to get to, and it's like you're here, but because one or two things don't go your way, you're willing to just like throw it all away and walk away from it. It's almost like if you're built for this shit, you're gonna like wake up the next day to really be like, nah, I'm gonna double down. I'm gonna really figure this shit out. Because now the reward is even better. Yeah. And so that's really my thing, is like to quit. Yeah. Just like, nah, why would you quit? Why would you do that?
Well, you take it even a step further, like you're giving up on yourself, but you also don't realize how many people you're inspiring by just being active and posting. Like, you know what I'm saying? I always tell people, like, there might be that one person out there who needs to see that post to get that inspiration for that day or for their life. Or so even like individually, like if you guys post, you know, constantly and you're telling people about yourselves and you're, you know, sometimes when you step away, somebody's looking at you right now going like, yo, this man, he went out to LA to work with these people. He's in the studio with these guys. Like, I want to be in his shoes, right? I want to find out what he's doing so I can get to that level at some point. Right. No matter what level you're at, there's always somebody looking at you like, wow, like that dude's in a room with Matt, that dude's in a room with Steve LaBelle, you know what I'm saying? So I think you got to also take these little wins and use them as fuel sometimes, because, you know, coming out to an event like this, you know, like you might not get a placement, but you're going to build 50 new relationships. Who knows what that could lead to? You might take a little gem and it might change your mindset about how you approach things you do. But the one thing you cannot do is you cannot block your blessings. And that's the last thing I'll say before we do a little Q&A. People always say, I don't have it. No, I don't have it, man. I can't do that right now. I can't afford that right now. What you got to put in your mind is, how do I get it? Mm-hmm. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I got to come up with like a couple $100s to go to this event. Okay. Don't fucking buy weed for the next 2 weeks. Don't go buy the new J's that came out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, stay home that weekend. Don't go spend a couple $100s at the bar.
I done sold shoes just to go do some shit. There's been, and anybody who knows me knows I love sneakers and clothes, but
I heard you were gonna throw some shit out though. I saw you post the other day. What size you wearing?
I'd be wanting to, but nah, it's like, you know, it's all about a sacrifice to me. I took a sacrifice and a big leap in deciding to go to New York, not knowing a soul, to try and figure this shit out. And to me, my blessing that God gave me was like, oh, there's this kid Jermaine. Why don't you become friends with him? And that shit got me pretty fucking far. So I always look at it to where it's just like, I'm trying to work harder than anybody and go further than everybody without having to seemingly look like I'm working harder than everybody. Right. So it's just like, I'll take a small sacrifice now for a better opportunity later. So it's like, that's where I leveraged, even just like, I was a runner at a studio, bro. Like,
for free.
Yeah, I was going to get people food. For like, I didn't become a salaried employee of the studio for like 4 months. And I was literally like showing up. There would be times, there was 2 moments where I could say like, people believed in me because they saw my work ethic. One time, a mix engineer, Kevin Davis, I went home earlier that day. Like, I got off at like 4 o'clock. Went home, ate dinner, and was just bored. And was just like, bro, what would you rather be doing right now than like playing video games, any of this shit? Like, I'd rather be at the fucking studio. So I just got in my car and went back. And my manager was leaving, and he was like, bro, what the fuck you doing here? And I was like, bro, I ain't got shit to do at home. Like, I'd rather be here. And KD has seen like our conversation, and he was like, nah, you gonna make it. And then another one was Heavy D. I was just sitting in the office one day, and funny story we have is Jimi Kendrix, who's a producer, a legend, that I met at an event Hatch was putting on, like the first event I'd ever went to in New York. I started managing him. I got him a placement on Heavy D's reggae album, which went on to be Grammy nominated. Yeah. So me and Hev built a relationship kind of based on that. And one day Hev was just like walking through the studio, and he looked at my manager, Ed, and he was like, yo, Ed, one day Matt's gonna be a president or a vice president of one of these labels. So like, obviously that shit kind of happened. But yeah, man, it's just like, I say all that just to say, it's like, you just gotta be willing to do what the next man ain't. Yeah. And sometimes it's the little shit, and sometimes it's big shit. So it's been as little as me as helping somebody take their trash out in the studio. And then they be like, man, I fuck with you, you ain't had to do all that. Or it's been as big as me finding a kid that I believe in to be like, good, I'm gonna fly you out to LA, I'm gonna put you in a hotel, and we're gonna move around, and you can see what I can do for you. And this person didn't know me from a can of paint, like, you know, from a few conversations on the internet. And I was willing to take a chance on them, and they were willing to take a chance on me. And, you know, eventually some shit worked out. We made some money together. Yeah. So it's, you know, it's little shit to big shit, where it's just like, it's just sacrificing, you know, for a greater good sometimes.
And the funny part is, I have this saying that I say all the time, like, you can't plant a seed and eat fruit the same day, right? So that's a perfect example, because Matt, actually, I managed Jimmy before Matt did. Yep. I managed him like right out of the Murder Inc. days, where he was doing all this Shanti, Jimmy Choo for Sean.
You managed Denon before I started managing.
So we actually got, I didn't realize that. I managed Denon, and he started managing Denon. So that's crazy. Oh, I didn't realize that. But yeah, so, you know, you plant this seed at some point, and you don't know where it's gonna end up growing or when it's gonna end up growing. So like Matt said, you meet somebody, you connect somebody, that other conversation happens, and it's like some sort of similar need, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you get a placement, you get an artist, and now they trust you, now they respect what you do, and now you build that bond even stronger. So being a manager is probably the hardest job in the industry, but at the end of the day, I think it's also potentially the most gratifying, because you know your effort and that person's effort that you partner with can be something, you know, super special that could work out great. So let's open up the floor for just a couple of questions real quick, because we have Ashley coming in. Kevin.
I just want to say I appreciate you coming this weekend.
Sure.
And coming out and sharing the gym.
For sure.
You know, I'm a producer. I was first starting, you know, rapping.
Okay.
And then I fell into producing because I wasn't really excited about my voice. I like how other people sound on my track. And then I was like, wow, I can just really be working, helping them out. And then Vegas, we just had a writer camp. And I brought somebody in because she's a dope writer.
Gotcha.
And she had the biggest song of the weekend.
Fire.
And then she pulled me to the side. And she was like, you changed my life. Like, I didn't know.
Right.
I can really share this much with people.
Right.
As I'm getting older and as I get further into this kind of music industry thing, it's more attractive when you're getting into helping people.
Absolutely.
And they tell you like, yo, that's like, thank you for shedding this light.
For sure.
I'm really leaning towards that. I always wanted to, because I wanted to be a producer and kind of leverage that. So I know what music sounds like. But my question is, what's the biggest misconception of being an A&R TPA? Because I feel like you all like that stuff out, kind of like middle child and shit.
Right.
Like literally, before it was like literally you had demos, and then now it's like, is this AI or you? Like,
No,
right,
for sure.
Like what's the?
I think the biggest misconception of an A&R is that all A&Rs are the same, and we're not. There's some A&Rs who are wholly office people. Like, they're not good in studios, they really have no musical inclination, but they get the job done, they understand the business, and they always stay on top of their shit. You have people that can do both, that can work in an office, understand the business, and still are like musically inclined to be able to contribute in a studio setting. And then you have some people who cannot be in an office, like they are HR liability for being in an office, but they help the creative side tremendously. So, you know, and then there's shit in between that, in between those three levels. So I would think that's the biggest misconception. Every A&R isn't the person that's gonna pick your beats. You know, I would honestly think there are very few of those that even have that trust of an artist, especially these days, because so much like direct interaction happens via the internet now, that an artist really doesn't need anybody to bring them beats. Like, I can just go on YouTube and type J. Cole type beats and find beats. Like, I've literally watched artists do that. So I don't think that there's no one like style of A&Ring, you know what I mean? It's just being able to, it's just being willing to help. I think that's the biggest thing about being an A&R is like people ask me all the time, like, how do I become an A&R? I don't know how you become an A&R. I just woke up and wanted to help. I just wanted to do shit. I knew that I had a goal in terms of wanting to become an A&R.
And a skill set.
But yeah, I just don't, there's no one way. There's A&Rs that have college degrees, and there's A&Rs that have never even stepped foot in college, and then there's me who got kicked out of college. Like, so there's, you know, there's A&Rs from all walks of life. There's some people who have become A&Rs at 19 and been out of the business by 30, and then there's A&Rs who became A&Rs at 31 and are making millions of dollars right now, because, you know, they decided to start a label or whatever it is. So to me, it's just about waking up and wanting to do the shit. That's the biggest job of an A&R, is wake up and fucking help somebody. Like, literally, whether it's somebody in the office, somebody in the studio, just be of assistance. Because as much as my job is, yes, artist and repertoire, I'm supposed to help deliver an album and turn it in and make sure everything is fine. Like, I'm sitting here coming up with cover artwork sometimes. I'm sitting up here helping the marketing person with the marketing plan sometimes, because I have a deeper connection with the artist and an understanding than they may have at the time. So it's really just about waking up and wanting to help somebody. And if you don't have a job to help somebody in, then it's just about finding somebody to trust you, to say like, oh man, you changed my life already, so, you know, I trust you that you can help steer me in the next direction or where I need to be going next. So I think that's just the biggest thing, is just wake up and do something. Like literally just make sure you don't go to sleep without him doing nothing, unless it's like Sunday.
Well, we talked about it too, like at most of the camps, like being a servant, you know what I'm saying? Being somebody who's like, oh, there's no waters in the room, let me get some waters, you know what I'm saying? Let me order a couple of pizzas. Everybody's in here just kind of chilling out.
I still go get niggas backwoods. I'll still go like, I'm going to 7-Eleven. Y'all want something? And people look at me crazy like, yo, we got runners. And like, so what?
Right.
Like, they may have something they need to do in the studio. Me being a runner, I can understand the importance of something. So it's just like, they can have something they need to do for the engineer. It may be, the artists really don't need something, but the homies need something. So I'll do that for them sometimes even, just because an artist will see that to where it's like, damn, this nigga went and got y'all M&Ms. Like, he didn't need to do that. But it's literally just about being of service. And it's not about like, some people will be like, oh man, well, I don't work for this person. It's not about that. It's about being a part of something that's bigger than yourself. So it's just like, I'm gonna do my part to make sure that all parts of this machine are working well, whether it's going to get water that day, or whether it's helping pick a beat that day, or whether it's being in a room and somebody asks me like, yo, what's a good line for this? Or what you think of this? So it's just about being available and being, you know, open to being just helpful. I feel like that's just how I became what I became, you know? Like, I don't think it was, like, obviously I had a goal in mind, but I don't think there was any like rhyme or reason. I didn't take a class of how to become an A&R. I was literally helping my friends. At the end of the day, I was doing the job of an A&R.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
This ain't even actually a question. It's just more so the flowers, man. I had ran into you not too long ago at a gas station. I don't know if you remember.
I do.
But
Paramount.
I talked to him a little bit. He gave me his number, and I followed up with him, and he picked up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know he busy and shit, but he picked up, and he was just like, yeah, he followed up. He gave me like a list of artists and everything, and I texted him some beats. But I just wanted to say, bro, that's genuine. That's like, I know you got a lot going on. You know what I'm saying? So we appreciate it.
You caught me in the right moment. And then listen.
Timing is everything, you know what I'm saying?
Timing is real shit. Like, those are lessons that I've learned before. Like, I have a really good friend of mine. His name is Angelo. And he was Aftermath A&R, and he was Games A&R. I remember one day I met them at the wrong moment, because they were at Boston Market getting food. And I thought this was a great time. It was literally him and Game standing at the counter. And I thought, oh, what a great time and opportunity for me to try and give these guys a CD of beats. And I was managing Jimmy at the time. And Angelo literally looked at me and was just like, bro, I'm about to order some food right now. Like, I'm about to lose this CD. Like, you got to figure out, the right time. I was sitting in the studio waiting for somebody to come. So for me, it was just like, oh, producer ran up on me. Like, I'm literally working right now. So I'm not mad at that. Right. Now, I've had people walk up to me in the grocery store where it's like, this ain't the time for that. Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, I can barely remember what the fuck I'm trying to buy. Right. So now this shit is all getting thrown around. So, it's just all about timing. Like, I think, obviously you didn't know I was at the studio, but it was just like, fuck it, I'm here, I'm not doing nothing, I'm waiting on somebody, right? So just the right time.
God always has a plan, right? Who has a question over here? Go ahead, Vish.
Not really a question, but more of a feedback off of what you said. I wanted to just give you your flowers.
Thank you.
That shit changed how I look at music, especially my earlier years. I just wanted to say.
Oh man, no, thank you. Shit, give the flowers to those artists. Like I was blessed to be able to work with obviously Cole, but even more so the Jids, the Earth Gangs, the Aries, the Lutes, the Omens. Like, it was a blessing to be a part of that family and to work with those artists at such a pivotal time in a lot of their careers. So for me, I look at it as like, I'm the lucky one, like I got to wake up and do shit that, people dream about every fucking day, no pun intended. And with artists that people would love to, have access to. So I just look at it as a blessing, and that's why I just had to make sure I didn't take the shit for granted. You know what I mean? I had to make sure I did my part of the job too, because it's one thing to be attached to a great artist, but then there's another thing to actually be somebody that they can be beneficial off of. To where it's like you can offer them something to where it's like, oh shit, this wouldn't have happened without this. And I'm thankful to say that. Like, I'm thankful to be able to have a resume of records that I say would not exist if I didn't be a part of them or middleman it somehow, some way. So, but it's all, at the end of the day, it all comes down to the artist, and I'm just a vessel, you know what I mean? Like, but it's all up to them, to me.
Fire. Go ahead, Drew.
I'm hearing a theme with a lot of the things that you're saying. It's like kind of a servanthood or a servant heart, and how you're expressing how you like to help people. In that vein, would you tell a new artist that's coming into their own and doing their thing as an AR? I know this might be kind of counterproductive for you, but would you tell a new artist when they're flirting with the idea of label versus independent, and how would you tell them for them to know which way they think they should go?
In terms of like a label versus an independent, it depends on your personal goals. If you want to hear your song on the radio every day and you want to be this worldwide superstar and you don't care about any of the other things that come with that, then you need a record deal. That was something that Cole recognized that he wanted early. Drake recognized he wanted early. So it's like you got to kind of sign a deal with somebody, whether it be another artist, a producer, but you're going to have to do a record deal at some point. But if you're just looking to be creative, not be controlled, because at the same time, like, understand, you sign to a label, we're trying to make money. Like, as much as we love being creative, like, the bottom line is like, how much do you bring in? Are you in the red, the black, or the green? So, we literally want to stay in the black or the green. I either need to break even or I need to profit. But if that's not a concern of yours and you're like, look, I want to do me uninhibited. I don't want anybody to tell me what they feel about my shit or where it can live. And I just want to be able to put my shit out and make money. This is the best time, if not the only time, you've been able to do that. So then it's like, yeah, if I don't want to deal with that and I'm not really trying to hear my songs on the radio, or if I know, even if you're just aware to listen, I know my songs don't even belong on the radio, but I still know that some people may like it, whether it's 500 people, 5,000 people, or 50,000 people. I know that I can get some fans if I put my shit out, then go independent. Build a fan base on TuneCore, do any and everything you can to market yourself and put yourself in front of people, do any show you can, but when you're going, like, it's essentially like, okay, bet. You can be a basketball player, right? And you can say, like, I want to go to the NBA, which is great. The work that you have to put in to get there, and there are certain politics you may have to play to get there, to where it's like, or I can just be like, you know what? There's this semi-pro league every weekend, and the winner of that shit gets like $5,000. I'm cool with that. Like, I'm cool with splitting that with my homies and playing basketball for fun every weekend, but it's not my livelihood. Then, and it can become that still. With music, it can still become that. So you can still make enough to where it's like, oh shit, I made $10,000 this month because I got some streams and a sync, and even then, only 20,000 people may have heard my music. So I think it's something to say to where it's just like, it's just a matter of what you want out of this. Which to determine, like, okay, because if you want to get on the radio as an independent artist, you got to have capital already. So you got to have some money to spend and to play with. Like, I don't know if people know this. I might be telling too much information, but I don't care. Like, a radio campaign costs hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Just in one region.
Yes, like, so no record becomes a #1 record on the radio just by itself. Like, they pay for Drake. They pay for Cole. Like, any radio campaign costs money. So understand that part, to where it's just like, what do I have? What access do I have to these things potentially? And it's not to say that you can't gain them, but you can start gaining a fan base now. So even if you want to get there at some point, you can do what Russ did. Where Russ was like, you know what? I'm going to put out 95 songs for 95 weeks in a row until I get a fucking fan base. And then Columbia's gonna call me, I'm gonna do a record deal, get a hit, and then I'm gonna dip. So I can go back to being independent, back to making music that I care about. But now I have millions of people already listening to me because I built a fan base, a label believed in me, they got me a hit record with A$AP Rocky and Bia, and now I can do whatever the fuck I want, but now I can just do it indie. So it's just really how you want and what you want out of it to determine, like, which route you should chase to me.
Right, and actually, I was gonna say what he mentioned earlier too, in terms of like being able to do things for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like if you create enough of a buzz, a fan base, maybe your merch line does very well. Like you're touring, locally within like 300 miles around your, current city. Like those are the things that eventually, once you get to the point, it starts to demand a bigger bag, right? So if somebody wants to fuck with you and sign you, now you have all these things lined up to where you can say, well, I did all the shit by myself, so what is this really going to help me out with? So not only does it drive the bag up, but it also drives up the willingness for other people to now say, okay, this guy's been doing this shit for himself, we got to figure out how this is going to work so that it can work for us as a label, you know what I'm saying? So it really depends on what you want, but also depends on what you can do for yourself a lot too, you know what I'm saying? So one more question. Go ahead, T. Actually, wait, you already asked a question. Anybody else over here didn't ask a question yet? You already asked one. Go ahead, Face.
All right. My name is Faze. I'm an artist. This question is kind of regarding the difference between New York City and Los Angeles. We've been both of those, right? So what would you say are the different advantages that New York City has compared to Los Angeles in terms of like networking, collaborating,
Opportunities.
Opportunities and such. So, and also, which city do you prefer the most?
I'm born and raised in LA, so I'm always gonna pick LA. But I love.
Although he moved like a New Yorker though sometimes.
I love New York though. Like, don't get me wrong. Like anybody who knows me know I love New York, but I'm always gonna pick LA. But to answer your question, I would think the difference between like the industry or whatever in New York and LA is like in New York you'll get more realness. You'll get people that were gonna, they're gonna tell you the truth. They're gonna tell you how they feel about your song, and you know that they're being honest with you.
Yeah.
In LA,
everyone go to lunch.
And I will say that right now, like obviously 20 years ago, all the opportunity was in New York. All the major labels were in New York. That's changed. All the opportunity is essentially in LA and Atlanta right now, to be honest. Yeah, a little bit Miami if you're making Latin music. For sure. But so LA, I think you won't get as real or honest reactions about you because nobody wants to be the person that is like, oh, I told them no, and then it works. You know what I mean? So in LA, you'll have more people willing to string you along to see what you figure out before they actually help you, because we're in the place where everybody is coming to get their big break. Right. Like we're literally in Hollywood. So knowing that, I don't want to be the asshole that tells like the next Jamie Foxx no. Or be the guy that, like, oh yeah, I didn't take a meeting with him because I didn't think it was shit, and then it becomes something. So you'll get more of that now in LA. And even in Atlanta, because I'm not the biggest fan of Atlanta. It's like the land of scammers. But so I feel like there's music industry scammers too. It's a land of
clicks too.
Yeah, it's
everybody clicked
Atlanta.
Up out there.
There's nothing against Atlanta or the people from Atlanta, 'cause I love the people in Atlanta, but I think that the industry grew so fast that you saw people that were just able to take advantage of people, rather than actually like being a part of something. But I would say that LA is where everybody is. LA is where you can make it in entertainment in any facet. So whether it's rapping, singing, acting, you know what I mean? Like everything is here. In New York, really, now for the most part, people use New York for like a media outlet. So if I'm going to roll out a record, like yes, my artist is gonna go do the Breakfast Club. They're gonna go do everything media is still based in New York. But record labels aren't, because there aren't studios in New York anymore. So I think that creatively, LA and Atlanta are the places that people want to be. New York is where you want to go. Like, once okay, I'm getting called to go to New York for interviews, you on to something though. Yeah. Because they're not just calling anybody. They're not even calling their own artists up to do shit. If it's okay, right now I'm calling Ice Spice to do shit. That's really it. So yeah, I think that, LA is kind of where most of it is at in terms of just opportunities.
Yeah, but there's also a little stigma though when it comes to New York versus LA in terms of pace and tempo of work.
Yes.
Like if you're from New York, like I am, when I came out here to shop records or have meetings, like my day is stacked the fuck up. I could do 12 meetings, studio from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m., get up at 7 a.m. the next day, have a smoothie, and start the fucking day over again. And then be productive because of our work ethic from the East Coast. Now, when you're on the West, so when I came to the West Coast a lot, you know, I meet with Matt obviously a couple times, but like everybody wants to just have lunch. It's like, let's get to the bag, dog. Like you meet somebody for the first time, but to his point, the one thing that I can tell you, and this has always been a part of my just process, is anytime I've ever played anybody of any talent to any A&R or publisher, 9 times out of 10 it led to something. It led to a session. It led to, you know, I'll be at APG and they'd be like, okay, what are you doing tonight? Let's get in for a session. It's nothing, you know, as long as they're talented and they have some sort of vibe and you got in that room, if you impress somebody, things can really happen quickly for you. But you also have to understand that as an artist, you have to be multifaceted and also be able to write. Because I think as a writer, sometimes you get in the rooms a little bit quicker because your goal is a little bit more central than it is being an artist where you're like, oh, I got all this going on and it's this big bubble of shit going on. And you're like, nah, I write. But the writing side will also help you get a deal. You know,
I have a theory about that.
Yeah.
My theory is all of the best songwriters are just failed artists. And it's not that they're failed in the terms of like their music was bad. They just couldn't figure it out. Whether they didn't have a manager at the time, they didn't have a team, they lived in fucking Wichita, like, you know what I mean? Like, but to me, all of the best songwriters were literally just failed artists, to where it's like, you know what? I know this shit is fire, they just need to hear somebody else's voice over it. Now, once they hear other people's voice, then it's like, oh shit, you're really good. I love that song you wrote. And it's like, I've literally been writing songs like this since I've been writing songs, you know? So I think that's always like, that's something even for me as like a manager, if I see somebody come to me and they'll, Trev Rich, writer that I manage.
Fired.
He was an artist that came to me, and his manager at the time was trying to like push him on me as an artist, and they were like, hey, can you come?
Was it Greg Smith?
No, it was Francois.
Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, I met Francois, yeah.
So he was like, you know, can you come in and help me build him as an artist? And they flew me to Denver. They got me a gig to like judge a Red Bull like beat battle, got me paid. So I'm like, okay, bet, you're doing all this for me. I'm gonna come sit down and figure this out with you. And when I'm sitting there, like the only thing I could keep thinking about was like, he's playing me these amazing songs, and I'm just like, and this is just like the raw, honest truth that I was thinking. It's just like, nobody's thinking of coming to Denver to look for artists. You know, like Denver's just not an area where we look for swag from. You know what I mean? It's not New Orleans, it's not Miami, it's not Atlanta, it's not like a cool area. So I was like, you know, nobody's coming to Denver to look for artists. But you still have something, like you have a song that I feel like Tyga would sound great on this.
Right.
And he believed in me. And I flew him out to LA to work with DJ Khalil, and he ended up getting an end credit on a Spider-Man soundtrack, on the animated one. And then I got him a publishing deal. And to where he was just like, oh no, fuck this artist shit. Yeah. Like, what am I doing? Like, I can, like, and he's still an artist. He still puts music out for himself, and that's what he's doing it for. He's just putting the music out for himself. He's not like, oh, I need to go, because you honestly can't compete with a 17-year-old in their bedroom who knows how to they take advantage of TikTok. Like, as an artist, if you're not doing that, you cannot compete anymore. So it's just like, all right, bet. But I can help Coi Leray write a hit, though. I can help her shit sound a little bit better. So I'd rather do that. I'd rather help a TikTok artist become a real artist.
And then eventually, if that works out multiple times and you can repeat that same process, somebody might say,
doing that too.
But I'm saying somebody might even come back and say, like, who's writing all these records? And then when they see him and hear him and then see what he's doing, maybe it does lead to something artistically as an artist. You know what I'm saying? Sure. You look at like Missy Elliott. Like Missy Elliott did not want to be an artist.
Fact.
She wrote tons of records. She produced tons of amazing records. But they looked at her and they were like, these records are too fire. So that she couldn't turn down the bag. And he threw a fucking bag at her. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why a lot of her shit was so silly and goofy, because she did not take herself serious as an artist. So that's why she could go in there and hee-hee-hee-ha, like, she's like, yo, this shit is like whatever.
But people related to it because they're fucking goofy and all the time too.
Amazing, because nobody was doing that. So it was just like, but she literally, like, I've had, you know, at one point she was published to Universal, and I helped get her on the Cole record.
Oh, yeah.
And connect her. Her mom manages her. So I've had, I've been able to have conversations with her, and it's just like, it's funny because like she wanted to write songs for other people.
Yeah.
That's the only thing she wanted to do was produce and write songs for other people. Her being an artist was literally like some funny shit. And that's why she like records herself, because it's like she can't be serious in a room doing that shit with people looking at her.
Right.
Because it's just like, I'm really just having fun. Like, the real work is when I'm writing a song for Aaliyah.
Right.
Like, that's when I got to write fucking 4-page letter and write a
Or I'm in the
fucking
studio with Timberland just to just learn and whatnot. Yeah.
So,
All right, man. Y'all get it one time for my man Money Makin Matt. So, we're about to do something special for my guy. This is our very first. So it was the very first FLWRS Award. And to Vision's point, and my man's point over here, we want to give you your flowers while you're here. My man's been working, so he got the very first
thank you.
Creative Space FLWRS Award for being the elite executive.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? We'll take a real quick picture in a second. But then we also got you some real flowers, not figuratively like flowers like a bouquet, but we got some flowers and
The best kind of
some
flowers.
weed head shit over here. But yeah, man, this is for you, bro. I appreciate you for all the things you've
I'm
done.
gonna be honest with you. This means, and anybody who knows me and is a friend of mine knows that I do have certain things on like my bucket list that I want in terms of like, I want to be Billboard 40 under 40, you know, all of that stupid bullshit that absolutely means nothing.
Right.
This means more to me than that ever will. So thank you.
Appreciate you, my brother.